So I always think it's important when we're doing these hearings to make sure that people who've actually experienced these systems are front and center, and that we hear you. And I want to acknowledge this is a hard hearing, and these have to be hard conversations to listen to, and you were part of one a couple weeks ago, and you really significantly impacted me in a way that I can't describe, and I'm grateful that you're willing to come today and spend a few minutes sharing your observations.
Good evening, Chair Gausser, Vice Chair Hurd, and members of the committee. My name is Whitney Rogers. I'm here on behalf of Oregon Foster Youth Connection, also known as OFYC. Our mission is to improve Oregon foster care system through advocacy, activism, and leadership. I cannot speak for all of Oregon's foster youth. I can only speak from my experience. I've been in therapeutical foster homes, group homes, placed with relatives, in behavior residentials. I've slept in like hotels with caseworkers. I've been homeless. So there's a few things that stand out to me, and the focus of bringing our youth home to Oregon is very important to me also. I also feel like in order to bring them home, there needs to be a home environment to bring them to. So with this, it really hit me hard, the injection part. But that happens here in Oregon too, in several treatments. And I don't know if this is too graphic, but how it's done is very violating. And oftentimes, from my experience in behavior residential, sometimes your drawers are pulled down and you are held down by 3 or 4 individuals and they inject you. If you refuse to take your medication, with physical abuse, sometimes when your caseworker comes, or like to what they call, I was focus funded or target funded, when they have treatment meetings, in my experience, it was hard to explain the things I was experiencing in fear of repercussions when my caseworker left, because I stayed at that residential facility. So yes, there was a treatment team there, a psychologist and a doctor and my therapist, but when my caseworker left, and I should say courtesy worker, I had a caseworker who saw me once in 2 years and changed. And so in the course of 3 years in my stay in a residential facility, I went through 2 caseworkers and they each saw me 1 time. I had an amazing courtesy worker who picked up my case and realized, like, no one's seeing this youth, and she's stayed with me for 4 years now. I am 19 and I am still in foster care, and she still sees me every day. Matter of fact, I got out of a meeting with her today at 9 a.m. She has helped me a lot, and she was my advocate. My attorney contacted me 3 times in my 3 years at that residential facility. I was put on medication and given diagnosis that would allow me to stay in the residential because there were no placements. And so bringing youth home is very important, but also a question I would like to ask is how can we improve or build and strengthen our child welfare system in order to be able to bring these youth home? Because the way it is currently, it would be very difficult to bring them home to, not just because of the lack of resources, the lack of caseworkers, it's because of the lack of communication between agencies. And I think that it's important also to ask when these youth are talking to their lawyers or attorneys, are they alone? Are they able to express these things freely? I know that was something that I struggled with. I really appreciate the committee for giving a youth voice an opportunity to talk. And I did have a note during my experience and time in these cares. I was exposed to excessive holds, or when I was being put in a physical restraint because maybe mouthing off, and I did. If you defended yourself or even like felt traumatized by people grabbing you, these were seen as aggressive behaviors. If you did things that maybe went against rules or things that they liked, you could be put in isolation. I was put in isolation up to 72 hours on Christmas of 2016. I stayed in isolation, and that was not seclusion in a locked door, but it was a stripped room with a bed, a blanket, and a pillow for 72 hours. And the psychological effect that had on me, especially during the holiday season, being a foster youth, was very great. I'm very proud to say that I am successful in my treatment. I underwent quite a few years of therapy. I'm in college now. I'm excited. I'm studying law to become a lawyer for families because I also care. There's a lot of things that I think need to be improved in the system, and DHS is overworked, and I know they're doing their best. And for all the mistakes that have been made, there's still caseworkers like my courtesy worker out there who work more than their fair share, who transfer cases, but for the sake of consistency in a youth's life, stay with their youth. And so I do ask that the committee assess the environment of which the children are placed in the residential facilities here, and make sure that, yes, it is hard for lawyers to go see their youth out of state, but how often do lawyers see their youth in state? My attorney calls me maybe once a year if I ask for that contact. So I do know that it's important to have youth being here in Oregon, but I think we need to make Oregon a home before we try to bring youth home. It's important that they stay safe, but if they're not safe outside our borders, can we really keep them safe inside our borders? I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. Thank you.
I didn't know what you were going to say today. It's pretty overwhelming and I think extraordinarily courageous to sit in front of a big room and share really vulnerable moments like that. And I'm really sorry. And I'm really grateful that you're willing to talk about it to make it better for other people. And I can only begin to imagine what an absolutely extraordinary attorney you're going to be and what you're going to do for other people. And I think it's important for the committee to know, in terms of the stories of the two youth that we heard today, that's an accident. I didn't know any of these stories a week ago today. I happened to ask Mary Sophia if she knew anybody that had a kid out of state. Could they have somebody give me a call? And that's where that story came from. And I asked OFYC if they had someone that could provide some responses. So it just makes me sad that on accident that those are the stories. And I hope when we are talking about these issues and the words that we use, like kids are difficult, the needs are hard, that we remember these are people that are going to be attorneys, that are going to save kids' lives, that are brave young women that sit in front of committees and talk about where they've been and go and develop leadership in other young people. That's who we're talking about. And Whitney, I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad that you're part of us. And
Thank you, Chair Gelser.
Anything else for Whitney? Thank you.
One last thing.
Yes.
I would ask that after this committee, that I would love to see action for my former foster youth brothers and sisters. We're all each other has, really. And so I look forward to seeing the action that this committee takes to help save and care for and really love our youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Whitney.
Try to vote again.